flipping through the newspapers, switching through multiple news channels, exploring different websites and online mediums for relevant news? Keeping up to date with important news is not only time-consuming but also requires meticulous upkeep of notes for thorough revision. With a limited period in hand and abundant resources to study from, do not let current affairs come in the way of your prelims success. Join the PT 365 program by Vision IAS and advance in your preparation for current affairs. Starting on 9th January at 5 p.m., this 20-day course offers comprehensive coverage of 1 year of current affairs in 60 hours. Join for improved knowledge with complete coverage of The Hindu, Indian Express, PIB, Economic Times, Yojana, Economic Survey, etc. Doubt-clearing sessions and mentoring for thorough knowledge. Access to Sandhan personalized test with 25,000 plus questions. Access to live and online classes for flexibility in timing. It's time to devote your energy to smart learning and not running. Enroll today and excel in UPSC prelims with a strong command of current affairs.
Hello and welcome to this edition of News Today. Without delay, let's have a look at the headlines first. RBI announces measures to manage liquidity conditions. Bureau of Energy Efficiency releases offset methodologies for suggestions. Ministry of MSMEs launches MSME Trade Enablement and Marketing Initiative. 100th launch of the Indian Space Research Organization from Sriharikota. Annual Status of Education Report 2024 released by NGO Pratham Foundation. Indian digital economy to contribute nearly 1/5 of national income by 2029-30, says study. In the first news for the day, we bring you key updates from the Reserve Bank of India, which has announced crucial measures to manage liquidity conditions in the banking system. So, what are these measures and why were they introduced? Let's find out. To tackle liquidity challenges, the RBI has announced 3 major steps. A 60,000 crore rupees open market operations (OMO) purchase auction of government securities. A 56-day variable repo rate or VRR auction of 50,000 crore rupees and a 5 billion USD rupee buy or sell swap auction for a 6-month tenure. Now, let's break these down. What exactly is an open market operation or OMO? Simply put, it refers to the purchase and sale of securities in the open market by the central bank of a country. Moving on to variable repo rate or VRR. This is a short-term liquidity adjustment tool used by the RBI to inject funds into the banking system. Under this mechanism, banks borrow funds at an interest rate determined through an auction process, with the auction amount being decided by the RBI itself. This tool operates under the Liquidity Adjustment Facility, giving the RBI discretion to conduct overnight repo or long-term repo auctions at fixed or variable rates based on market conditions and other relevant factors. But why is there a liquidity issue in Indian banks? There are multiple factors at play. One major reason is the lag effect, where liquidity from the government side enters the market after a delay, causing fluctuations. Additionally, inflation controls measures sometimes result in the RBI maintaining higher rates, impacting liquidity levels. Other contributing factors include higher cash withdrawals during festival seasons and the fact that deposit growth has been slower than credit advances over the past year. In conclusion, the RBI's latest measures aim to balance liquidity in the system, ensuring smooth financial operations while addressing inflation and other economic concerns.
Moving on, the Bureau of Energy Efficiency or BEE has released a set of offset methodologies for public suggestions. A total of 10 sectors have been approved under the offset mechanism as part of the Carbon Credits Trading Scheme or CCTS. Let's dive into the details. Out of the 10 sectors, 6 sectors belong to Phase 1, for which 12 methodologies have been developed. The methodologies have been adapted from the existing UNFCCC Clean Development Mechanism or CDM methodologies. The CDM allows emission reduction projects in developing countries to earn certified emission reduction credits. which can be sold to industrialized nations to help them meet their emission reduction targets under the Kyoto Protocol. The offset methodologies cover various sectors to promote emission reductions. In the energy sector, projects focus on grid-connected electricity generation from renewable sources projects. The industry sector includes energy efficiency improvements and fuel switching measures for industrial facilities projects. Waste handling and disposal initiatives involve landfill methane recovery projects. And in agriculture, methodologies support biofuel production and methane recovery from livestock and manure management at households and small farms. The forestry sector emphasizes afforestation and reforestation of lands, excluding wetland projects. Lastly, the transport sector encourages a modal shift in cargo transportation from road to water or rail, along with the adoption of electric and hybrid vehicles. But what is the Carbon Credits Trading Scheme or CCTS 2023? Introduced through amendments in the Energy Conservation Amendment Act 2022, it establishes the Indian carbon market under two mechanisms. The compliance mechanism is a mandatory program setting greenhouse gas emission intensity targets for obligated entities, initially covering 9 sectors such as fertilizer, iron and steel, petrochemicals, and petroleum refineries. Meanwhile, the offset mechanism operates as a voluntary, project-based system for non-obligated entities, allowing them to register projects and earn carbon credit certificates or CCCs once they meet BEE's eligibility requirements.
Now let's talk about a major initiative launched by the Ministry of MSMEs, the MSME Trade Enablement and Marketing or TEAM initiative. Starting with the big picture. The TEAM initiative has been launched under the Raising and Accelerating MSME Productivity or RAMP program, which is spearheaded by the Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises. Now, what exactly is RAMP? Well, RAMP is a World Bank-supported central sector scheme designed to run from 2022 to 23 to 2026 to 27. Its primary objective is to enhance MSMEs' access to markets, finance and technology upgradation by expanding the reach of existing Ministry of MSME schemes. Now, let's focus on the TEAM initiative itself. The main goal of this initiative is to empower MSMEs by facilitating their entry into digital commerce through the Open Network for Digital Commerce or ONDC. This will help them expand their market reach while simultaneously reducing the cost of doing business. To achieve this, the initiative will leverage digital public infrastructure via ONDC, ensuring substantial support for micro and small enterprises. The TEAM initiative has an outlay of 277.35 crore rupees and will be implemented over 3 years, from FY 2024 to 25 to FY 2026 to 27. The program aims to benefit 5 lakh micro and small enterprises, and here's a key highlight. 50% of these beneficiaries will be women-owned MSEs. Who will implement this initiative? Well, the National Small Industries Corporation or NSIC has been entrusted with the responsibility of rolling out the program. However, there are some eligibility criteria that MSMEs must meet. Only those with a valid Udyam registration under the manufacturing or service sectors will qualify. It's important to note that medium enterprises are not eligible for most benefits under this initiative. Now, what exactly is ONDC? The Open Network for Digital Commerce or ONDC is an initiative by the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade under the Ministry of Commerce, aimed at democratizing digital commerce. Unlike traditional e-commerce platforms, ONDC enables interoperability across buyer and seller applications. With TEAM initiative, MSMEs will not only gain better market access, but will also experience lower business costs, more opportunities for digital expansion, and enhanced financial and technological support.
The Indian Space Research Organisation or ISRO marked a historic milestone with its 100th launch from Sriharikota, successfully placing the NVS-02 satellite into geosynchronous transfer orbit. The mission was executed using the GSLV F-15 rocket from the Satish Dhawan Space Center in Andhra Pradesh. The GSLV F-15 is a 3-stage launch vehicle featuring the CUS-15 cryogenic engine in its 3rd stage. NVS-02 is the second satellite in the NVS series and part of India's navigation with Indian constellation or NAVIC. But what is NAVIC? It is a regional navigation satellite system formerly known as Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System, launched by ISRO. It is designed with a constellation of 7 satellites, of which 3 satellites are placed in geostationary orbit and 4 satellites are placed in inclined geosynchronous orbit. It provides both a standard positioning service or SPS for civilian applications and a restricted service for strategic use, covering India and an area up to 1500 km beyond its borders. NAVIC boasts high accuracy, with positioning precision better than 20 meters and timing accuracy of better than 40 nanoseconds. Additionally, its SPS signals are interoperable with global navigation systems, GNSS signals such as GPS of USA, GLONASS of Russia, Galileo of European Union, and Beidou of China. Now, let's take a closer look at ISRO itself. India's premier space agency was established on August 15, 1969, evolving from the Indian National Committee for Space Research or INCOSPAR, founded in 1962 under the vision of Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. Headquartered in Bengaluru, ISRO has been instrumental in advancing space technology for national development. The agency's first experimental launch, the SLV-3 carrying the Rohini technology payload, was led by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam in 1979.
Now we bring you key insights from the Annual Status of Education Report or ASER 2024, released by Pratham Foundation. This nationwide rural household-based survey examines children's schooling and learning status, and this year's report presents some remarkable findings. First, let's understand what ASER is all about. This survey assesses the schooling status of children aged 3 to 16 and evaluates their ability to read simple text and perform basic arithmetic for those between 5 to 16 years. Since its inception in 2005, ASER was conducted annually until 2014, after which it shifted to an alternate year cycle. Now, let's talk about the key findings of ASER 2024. A major highlight is a reversal of the learning gap caused by a pandemic. The report notes significant improvements in basic reading and arithmetic skills among students of class 3rd and 5th in rural areas, showing a return to pre-pandemic learning levels. Not just that, all elementary grades from standard 1st to 8th have shown improvement in reading and arithmetic since 2022, with arithmetic skills reaching their highest levels in a decade. Moving on to a new edition, digital literacy. For the first time, ASER 2024 includes a component measuring digital literacy among children aged 14 to 16. And what did it find? Access to smartphones is now almost universal, with 90% of both girls and boys reporting that they have a smartphone at home. However, when we look at smartphone ownership, a gender gap emerges. While 36.2% of boys own a smartphone, only 26.9% of girls do. And how are these devices being used? Surprisingly, only 57% of teenagers use them for educational purposes, whereas a staggering 76% engage with them primarily for social media. Now, let's turn to school infrastructure. The report highlights slight improvements across all right to education indicators, including better access to functional girls' toilets, drinking water facilities, and other essential infrastructure. So, what does this all mean? ASER 2024 presents a hopeful picture of recovery and progress in rural education, particularly in foundational learning and digital access. However, gaps remain, especially in gender disparity and the way digital devices are being used.
Moving ahead, a recent study titled Estimation and Measurement of India's Digital Economy, released by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology or METI, projects that India's digital economy will account for nearly 20% of the country's GDP by 2029-30. The study follows measurement methodologies outlined by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development or OECD and the Asian Development Bank or ADB. Let's look at the key observations of the report. The report highlights that digital intermediaries and platforms are promoting digital diffusion and access beyond the ICT sectors. India's digital economy is expected to expand at twice the pace of the overall economy, with its share in GDP projected to reach 13.42% by 2024-25. However, the study also points to lack of uniformity in digitization across traditional sectors. For instance, while over 95% of payment transactions in the banking, financial services, and insurance or BFSI sector are digital, other financial services such as loans remain less digitized. But what has been the status of India's digital economy in 2022-23? Let's dive into it. India's digital economy contributed 11.74% of the national income in 2022-23, amounting to INR 31.64 lakh crore, which is $402 billion in GDP. The sector employed 14.67 million people, accounting for 2.55% of the total workforce, and demonstrated a productivity level 5 times higher than the rest of the economy. The gross value added or GVA contribution stood at 7.83% from core industries and 2% from digital platforms. Globally, India ranked as the third largest digitalized economy and 12th among G20 nations in terms of individual users. The country also led in digital payments, recording 1,644 billion transactions, the highest volume globally. Additionally, India hosts 55% of the world's global capacity centers or GCCs, further solidifying its position as a global digital powerhouse. To drive digital transformation, the study recommends strengthening digital literacy and skilling through initiatives like Pradhan Mantri Gramin Digital Saksharta Abhiyan or PMG Disha. It also calls for reducing regulatory uncertainty by formulation of policies and filling the data gap to ensure evidence-based interventions and enhancing cybersecurity and trust with awareness, cross-country collaboration, and R&D investments. And finally, ensuring universal access to high-quality broadband by combining supply-side efforts with demand-side interventions to ensure the affordability of devices and data services. With the rapid expansion of India's digital economy, policymakers are urged to implement these measures to ensure inclusive and sustainable growth in the digital sector. In today's Personality in News, we turn our attention to Field Marshal K.M. Cariappa, remembered on his birth anniversary for his remarkable contributions to the Indian Army and the nation. Let's take a closer look at his key contributions. He made history as independent India's first Commander-in-Chief, a position previously held only by British officers. Army Day, observed annually on January 15th, commemorates the day he assumed this role, replacing General Sir Francis Roy Butcher. With a distinguished military career spanning from 1919 to 1953, Cariappa became the first Indian to command a battalion in the Indian Army. During World War II, he served in key operations in the Middle East and Burma. Post-retirement, he continued his service to the nation as India's High Commissioner to Australia and New Zealand. In recognition of his outstanding leadership and dedication, the Government of India conferred upon him the prestigious rank of Field Marshal in 1986. Known for his values of leadership, integrity, and patriotism, Cariappa remains an enduring inspiration in India's military history.
As we conclude today's main news, let's have a look at some quick updates. Quick commerce unicorn Zepto has completed a reverse flip from Singapore to India ahead of its planned initial public offering or IPO. A reverse flip is the term used to describe the trend of overseas startups shifting their domicile to India and listing on Indian stock exchanges. The reasons for this include the opportunity to capitalize on India's large and growing economy, access to deeper pools of venture capital, a favorable tax regime, better intellectual property protection, among others. An elephant has been spotted in Namdapha Tiger Reserve after over a decade, raising conservation hopes. Namdapha Tiger Reserve is India's easternmost tiger reserve, located in Changlang district of Arunachal Pradesh. The Namdapha River flows through the national park. The vegetation includes evergreen forest, moist deciduous forest, subtropical forest, temperate forest, and alpine forest. The Department of Nutrition and Food Safety of the World Health Organization has launched its new guideline on the use of lower sodium salt substitutes or LSSS. LSSS contain less sodium than regular salt and often include potassium chloride with or without other agents to achieve a flavor similar to that of regular salt. Scientists create first adult mouse with 2 male parents. It was made possible through targeted imprinting gene edits in embryonic stem cells, which are pluripotent cells that give rise to all somatic cell types in the embryo. Researchers targeted 20 imprinting genes to overcome barriers in unisexual reproduction using different techniques, including CRISPR, frame shift mutations, among others. China's DeepSeek AI models named DeepSeek V3 and DeepSeek R1 have performed on par with ChatGPT, challenging Western dominance in AI. DeepSeek AI models are advanced, open-sourced AI language models that are more efficient in reasoning, coding, and mathematical computation. Moreover, they are also cheaper to use, with DeepSeek R1 reported to be 20 to 50 times cheaper than OpenAI models. Researchers have extracted silicon carbide from simulated moon soil, which could lead to the making of silicon carbide-based composites for building lunar habitats. Silicon carbide, also known as carborundum, is a synthetically produced crystalline compound of silicon and carbon. Its properties include extreme hardness, high thermal conductivity, excellent resistance to wear and oxidation, and resistance to chemical reactions. A recent study discovered F11 bacteria that degrades at least 3 types of per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances. F11 bacteria are aerobic microorganisms from the Xanthobacteriaceae family. They may aid bioaugmentation in wastewater treatment, among other applications. Bioaugmentation is the addition of microorganisms that can biodegrade recalcitrant molecules in a polluted environment. Nagoba Jatra, a holy pilgrimage event of the Meshram clan Adivasi Gonds, started in Adilabad district, Telangana. Tribal people from Maharashtra, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, and Madhya Pradesh belonging to the Meshram clan offer prayers at the festival. The Gusari dance performance by dancers from the Gond tribe is a major special attraction of the event. Before we sign off, let's challenge your understanding in today's installment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you found this episode of News Today engaging. For the solutions to the quiz and to access the PDF version of News Today, remember to visit the provided links in the description below.